Okay, can everybody see me now? Can they join? Okay, now I think they can join. Oh, very good. You're all back. Sorry about that. The problem was the connector. Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. All right. Well,
Yes.
thank you. I have this periodic table here. I will project it on the screen eventually, but I'm going over the rules. So keep in mind the periodic table here. I'll pull it up on a PowerPoint, or I'll pull it up on the screen and share the screen with you. So hold on a sec while I do that. Okay, can you all see me now? Can everybody see me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen now. So we're going to talk about the periodic table. So basically here, what we'll do is, can you see the periodic table now? Or
No.
can you see it now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, wonderful. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about the periodic table. I handed that out to everybody. There will be a copy of the periodic table. It essentially looks like this, and we're going to talk about the different, yes. What? Oh, okay. Here. Now, there are a set of rules for understanding the periodic table. And one of the things we have to do here is use them. Can everybody hear me now? Everything fine? So we'll start now. The quiz will be delayed until Monday. I wanted to have 3 full lectures, and this messed up with the fire alarm as well as this messed it up. So basically we'll do this. So basically what I'm going to do now is kind of change the size of this periodic table a little bit and move to another kind of setup, put it over here so you can still see it. Could everybody still see it there also? And then I'll go to a whiteboard sort of here too. Let's use a different form here. I'll put it on a sticky note. So essentially, okay. All right, now basically we'll use the sticky note to do this. The first rule is the first name, the first letter of the English name. And now I'm going to move to the board so you can see. So basically, you can see the letters over here. So essentially, with hydrogen, and if we put hydrogen here, hold on a minute. Basically, we got the first letter of the English name. Okay, and essentially I could draw on it. If you got the first letter of the English name, the letter H is going to be hydrogen, okay? So hydrogen is this example, all right? Does that make sense to everybody? You got it there? So basically that is how it works, okay? When they're duplicates, you have the second letter also. So you have the first and second letter of the English name. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the screen here and show the picture. Hold on a minute here. Go back to the Zoom. Hold on a minute here. Back to the. Okay, I'm trying to maximize the screen again to go back to there. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the sharing now. I'm gonna go back to using the board. It's easier to use the board to do the rules instead of that. It's more easy. Can everybody see the board now? Okay, so basically we got the first letter of the English name. So what is hydrogen, folks? What is hydrogen? H. So H is for hydrogen. Okay. Now, how do you, just so you understand the nature of how these elements were discovered, what do you suppose essentially, what does that tell you about the discovery of hydrogen regarding it getting H? It was earlier, it was discovered earlier. So it got the first letter, okay? Then you have other ones where you have differences, like for example, phosphorus. What is phosphorus? P, very good. It follows the first rule, okay? Okay, but what would potassium be? Y. Okay, there, it's the Latin name. Okay, so when the English is taken, you go for the Latin name too. So that's from calcium. And what I found in Kazakhstan was the Russian name for potassium is calcium. Okay, so the Russian periodic table was developed by a guy by the name of Mendeleev, and you'll learn a little bit of the history of the periodic table, I think, in one of the later chapters. But the key thing is when you have the first thing of the English name or the Latin name, and in one case, the German name. Okay, so you have, first you have English, then you have Latin, then you have German. An example of the German would be tungsten, which is Wolfram in German. And that is the letter W, okay? So does that make sense? Do you understand the logic? Now, when you have more than one, you then have the first and second letter of the English name, or Latin or whatever, okay? There are no Germans, so it's or Latin in this case. So you have the first and the second one associated with that. So that rule, essentially, you would have helium. H is already taken. So what does that mean? Huh? It's HE. So you have HE here. Now, looking at this periodic table I showed you before, and you can remember in what the periodic table looks like. I have it here. Looking at this periodic table here. Does everybody see it? I will give you one next week for this, for the quiz, but I will share it for you in the shared drive, so you can download and print one out for you. So you'll always have this periodic table. Yes.
We'll have the periodic table
Yes. With just this on it.
Oh, so we would like naming the name.
Yeah,
Oh.
and you can go both ways. I'm not asking you to memorize everything, not having a periodic table. Yes, yes. Yeah, or the other way around. But you'll always have this with you. Okay? So it makes it very easy. The key thing is you just have to learn to read this. And even for the exams, you'll always have a periodic table. It's a standard, simple one. You can buy more complicated ones, but I want you to read it and learn how to read this thing. That's what goes on. Yes, question. Okay? Yeah.
Spelling count includes.
Yes. Okay? But basically, you just got to learn that and practice. But eventually, you'll get the hang of it. It's no big deal. Okay? But the key thing is helium is the second one here. Now, what is sulfur? Okay, very good. Sulfur. Okay, so what would sodium be? Yes. Okay, it's the first and second letter of natrum. Where does natrum come from? What language? Latin. And that was one of the earliest, natrum is kind of a very old Latin name also, but basically natrum, that's where sodium comes from, okay? So you have those two things together, okay? Now, let's look at another example. Carbon. What is that? C, very good. Calcium. Ca. Very good again. Yes.
Why do they not just keep the Latin names for the element instead of changing it?
Well, because basically a lot of people don't know Latin, and English is the language of general scientific communication all over the world. So I taught this English periodic table to my Kazakh students. Even the Russians don't use the Mendeleev one anymore. It's too complicated, and this one makes more sense. Even they agree with it. Okay? But the key thing is here, it's the same way. Even in Iraq, where they teach chemistry in English, even in the Iraqi universities, they use the English periodic table because they got to learn to communicate with other chemists elsewhere. It's a big chemistry world out there. Now, cadmium. Okay, that brings in the third rule. What do you suppose the third rule is? Yes, it's the first and second consonant. Okay, does everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me there? Can you hear me? So you got the first and the second consonant here. So cadmium essentially is CD. Okay? Now, this is by far most of the elements of the periodic table. I asked you to work through 1 through 10 before you even started the class. Okay? So for the quiz on Monday, I want you to go up to 36. So basically, for the quiz on Monday, you go 1 through 36 on the periodic table. But if you know these rules, it's easy. Let's just look at them. Okay? For example, and so people can see me over there. For example, uranium is way down at the bottom. What is that? What is uranium? U. How about platinum? Yes. No. PT. Okay, so you got 1 or 2 chances there, but gradually you learn the hang of it. Okay. Lead. No. PB, because it comes from the Latin word plumbum, which is a later consonant. So the fourth rule is essentially the first and then a later consonant. And so that comes from plumbum. Now, I'm going to erase these on the board here too, and talk about some more of the nuances about these. But basically you have plumbum here, the first and the second consonant and other stuff like that, cadmium, whatever else. There's a whole bunch of other examples here that follow these rules, okay? One person asked about gold. Okay, gold comes from arum. It is a very old element too, so it is Au. Silver is Ag, it is from agrum. Okay? So basically, you will gradually learn these different symbols along with the names. But I'm asking you to go to 36 because that covers by far most of the most of the ones of compounds that are in the world. Okay? So now let's do a little oral quiz. Without looking at this thing, what is aluminum? I know, very good. Okay, what is germanium? Ge, gallium, Ga, okay? Bromine, Br, very good. Iodine, I, great, okay? And when you have this handy, then that helps you with it. Does everybody get the hang of it? Now, some of you, when you took high school chemistry, how many teachers gave you the periodic table and said, memorize this? Well, that's part of what we have to teach you, okay? Because that's the kind of thing that makes chemistry boring for a lot of students. They're not very good at memorizing the periodic table. They don't really see the point. But if you learn how to read the periodic table, the basic one, and understand its rules, then it'll help chemistry be a lot more understandable for you. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to the PowerPoint. We have about 10 minutes left. So basically, I'll continue where I left off, but are there any questions about that? But that'll be enough to get to 1 through 36 for on Monday. And then after 1 through 36, if you want to continue on it, you could go to 54. And then I have isolated ones above that I'll give you for the next week. So for Monday, it's 1 through 36. And then for the next following Monday, it'll be the rest that I want you to learn. So basically, there's plenty of time for you to do it. Now, why am I asking you now to learn this? Well, later in chapter 2, when you get to naming of compounds and the end of the chapter, it'll come things because the names get put together like sodium and chlorine is sodium chloride. And that essentially uses what you've already learned in the names. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, very good. Okay. Now, do any of you others online, do you have any questions for me?
What was the fourth rule?
Oh, okay, the fourth rule essentially was the first and a later example. Like here, lead comes from Latin, that would be plumbum, for P-L-U-M-B-U-M. PB. Does everybody see that? Did that answer your question?
So it's just the first letter and a later consonant? Wasn't that number 3?
Yes, that's number 4. Number 3 is the first letter and the second consonant.
Okay.
Okay, so pardon my handwriting, but basically they're on the PowerPoints and they're also in Hein, I believe in chapter 4 or something, or later on and maybe 5. But the point is, again, these are the basics for this. Any other questions from those of you online? Okay, I'm going to shift to go to the PowerPoint and continue where I left off last time. I don't know why I couldn't access my, hold on a second here. I couldn't access my PowerPoint here. Just a minute. I got to go to that again. Okay, I'm going to share the screen and we'll move to the PowerPoint now. Please tell me if you can see it properly. Can you see the PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, thanks. So we'll go on with this. Okay, now essentially here what we're dealing with is the first thing is mass and its measurement. The key thing about understanding mass, essentially when we have these, is mass is essentially the amount of matter in material. So essentially, it is a number. Okay, so essentially you start with the various thing. Okay, weight is essentially mass times gravity. This is the weight. So essentially you have those things. The mass would be in kilograms, gravity would be in newtons, so it's kilograms, newtons to do that. And the English thing for weight is pounds, okay, on Earth. But the point is, or newtons is the other example. But essentially you have kilograms times gravity, and that would be newtons of force there. But basically you have the force thing regarding where it is in that. The meter was essentially